on the ballot.
I will stick my neck out. I've got a proven record in the Senate.
The Indiana you and I will build. We'll never compromise.
I'm asking you to have a bold vision for the people of Indiana.
I'm passionate about we've got to play to win in Indiana.
From the top job in the Hoosier State to the halls of Congress to the commander-in-chief, we're live at campaign headquarters across central Indiana as the results come in, breaking down the headlines and tonight's surprises with our expert panel. Now on In Focus, the 2024 primary.
Fox 59 is your local election headquarters. The polls have closed across the state. The results are coming in there at the bottom of your screen for Indiana's primary. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Dan Spieler. As we watch the election results and Mike Braun now the projected winner in the race for governor, we are also still keeping an eye on that weather. There is a tornado watch in effect for most of central Indiana. Tonight, if anything materializes, we'll certainly send things over to our weather authority. In the meantime, let's check on those big races that Hoosiers are helping to decide. The first in the race for president. The Associated Press has already called that primary for former President Donald Trump. You see Nikki Haley, who's dropped out, pulling in about 22% of the vote. Another important race for Indiana governor. That race called in favor of Senator Mike Braun just within the last 30 minutes. He is the projected winner tonight in the race for governor in the Republican primary. The Associated Press making that projection at the top of the hour, just a few minutes after 7 o'clock. So we're waiting to hear from Mike Braun. We're also waiting to hear from Lieutenant Governor Crouch, who's about to speak. In fact, she is speaking now. We'll look at some live pictures of her address as she's now speaking at her campaign headquarters tonight. There she is giving a concession speech moments before we hear from Senator Braun at his campaign headquarters. Let's check in now at Braun campaign headquarters as those results come in tonight. Fox 59 is live with the Braun campaign as they celebrate this victory tonight in this very crowded, very expensive Republican primary. The candidates spending some $40 million collectively in this race. We've got State House reporter Hannah Adamson, who's there live in Whitestown. Hannah, no doubt a celebratory mood there at Braun headquarters tonight.
There are a lot of smiling faces here at the Moontown Brewery in Whitestown, Indiana, as the AP announced moments ago that Mike Braun is the projected Republican nominee in Indiana's gubernatorial race. Now, this is one of the most crowded Republican gubernatorial primaries in the state's history. 6 Republicans vying for Governor Holcomb's seat. In a poll we conducted in March along with Emerson College and The Hill, 30% of Indiana's Republican voters said they would support Mike Braun. Now, for those of you who are just tuning in, he is expected to give a victory speech at 7:45, so don't go anywhere. We will be laying out his whole victory speech in its entirety again in about 15 minutes. But for now, reporting live in Whitestown, Indiana, Hannah Adamson, send it back to you.
Okay, Hannah, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We'll check back soon to hear from Senator Braun. He's the winner in the Republican primary, and he's going to face Jennifer McCormick now in the fall. She's the only Democratic candidate in the race, the former Indiana Superintendent of Education, a former Republican who switched parties after leaving office. And as we talk about that race for governor tonight, let's bring in our panel right now to discuss the impact of these numbers that we're seeing so far and the projections that have already been made. Here in studio, we have former state party chair for the Indiana Democrats, Robin Winston, 2016 vice chair for the Indiana Trump campaign, Tony Samuel, Democratic strategist Laura Beck, and Republican Mike Murphy, a former state representative. We'll also be checking in with some of our panelists on Zoom tonight as well. So we're talking about this race for governor, guys, and you know, we knew Mike Braun was the favorite coming into tonight, but he certainly has held on to the lead he's had in the polls, maybe built on it ahead tonight by double digits. He may end up winning by 20 points. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly the Trump endorsement. Trump's what, at 83% here in Indiana. I mean, he's had a good Senate career. You know, he's a good man. Braun is, but you could have, you know, run a horse with that kind of endorsement, and the horse would have won with Trump's endorsement. That's how powerful Trump is in Indiana.
Laura, how does this set up for the fall? Jennifer McCormick's been waiting to see who would win this race. Now we know officially. It's Braun against McCormick in November.
Yeah, I think it's setting up a real clear contrast between the two candidates. I mean, Mike Braun, yes, has, you know, as they would say, more money than God, but What Jennifer McCormick has is she has a really clear, defined vision, and she's been talking about issues that impact the state of Indiana since she announced her candidacy. I mean, I think we all know that Braun's campaign was very focused on China and the border and a lot of national issues that really aren't going to impact Indiana, whereas she is really focusing on that. I also think there's going to be a very clear contrast in the post-Dobbs world between Braun and Jennifer McCormick, especially as it relates to bodily autonomy and women's health.
What do you think we hear from Mike Braun in about 10 minutes here, Tony, as we pivot to the fall? Does he try to pivot to more of that general election rhetoric, perhaps? Certainly it's been a Republican primary where everybody's kind of been racing to the right. Does he try to reach out to voters in the middle to try to solidify things for the general election?
I would guess that he probably does. I mean, he ran a safe campaign. He ran the kind of campaign that he needed to. He's got really good a good political team behind him that have done this for quite a while. And he's a good guy, has a record in the Senate. But it was, like Mike said, that Trump endorsement for the most part. And also, a low turnout and voters not really getting to know the other six. Suzanne Crouch ran a great race, a grassroots effort. She's been doing this at different levels, local, state, and for quite a while. And the others, what was fascinating about this, we didn't know how this was going to turn out when you had two self-funders really attacking Braun, and it just, to no avail, it didn't work.
So much money in this race, but not a lot of voter participation. Voter turnout very low. What do you make of that? Do you think people just sort of tune out to politics altogether, and where does that leave things for the fall?
It leaves it great for Jennifer McCormick because she won't have the kind of money that Mike Braun and his outside influencers will have. Dan, we're talking about 20 years of one-party rule. Just today, they began to address the failure of the Family and Social Services Administration to take care of kids that are in treatment at home with their families. Just today. So you've had 20 years of one-party rule with lots of things going on, not always for the best interest of Hoosiers. There will be, as Laura said, there will be a clear contrast this fall, and you voters will have the chance to make that clear contrast known.
We're going to talk more about that race for governor with some of our other panelists who are on Zoom coming up in just a couple minutes, but we're also getting a look at some of the other races on the ballot tonight, including the congressional races. Let's go to Indiana's 5th district right now. On the Democratic side of the ballot, Deborah Pickett holding a strong lead over Ryan Feniger with about a quarter of the votes counted so far, while the Republicans appear on track to possibly re-elect Victoria Spartz tonight, though it's still within that 10-point margin, an 8-point gap right now. She leads State Rep Chuck Goodrich by 8 points. Let's check in with Fox 59's Scarlett O'Hara right now, who joins us live from Noblesville at the campaign party for Chuck Goodrich. What's the mood there right now, Scarlett?
Oh, the mood here is hopeful. The room is full of supporters, all waiting to see those results come in as we're here talking about them. Now, I did have a chance to catch up with a representative from Goodrich's campaign who said, as we wait for those results to come in, there's not much to say yet, not much to comment yet, but he did say the turnout this year was a bit higher than they were expecting. But we're all just, again, waiting for those results to come in before there is more to say. We do know that Goodrich has spent the most while campaigning of any candidate, but he is up against 8 other Republicans, one of which, again, is incumbent Victoria Spartz. So, of course, throughout the night, I will keep you updated as things go on. So for now, in Noblesville, Scarlett O'Hara, back to you.
Thank you so much. Also tonight, Hoosiers are selecting a new senator this year since Senator Braun chose to run for governor. Here's a look at the Democratic primary. It came down to Mark Carmichael and Valerie McRae. Valerie McRae, the projected winner in that race. She's ahead by more than 30 points. She'll be up against Congressman Jim Banks, who's the only Republican on the ballot. He just gave a victory speech moments ago in Fort Wayne. Let's check in on some of the other results that we're seeing so far. The Republican primary for Congress in District 6. That's showing an early lead for Jefferson Shreve, the former Indianapolis mayoral candidate, but it's close. He's up by 6 points and about 1,400 votes over Jamison Carrier, and 2 state lawmakers there, Mike Speedy and Jeff Rotz, in 3rd and 4th. Greg Pence, of course, the current incumbent in that district, announced that he's stepping down after this term. So a close race there with about 36% of the vote in. We've also been following races in other congressional districts as well, but still no results in the 7th district, where Andre Carson is the current incumbent, still waiting for numbers there in the primary on the Democratic side and on the Republican side of the aisle, where there are 4 candidates in that race, but still no results here in District 7 so far. Also, the District 3 race, an open race this year with Congressman Banks running for Senate so far. Look at that one. A close race, 121 votes separating Andy Zay, the state senator, and Marlin Stutzman, who used to hold this very seat in Congress. And in fact, just now you saw the numbers update. Marlin Stutzman now pulling ahead by about 290 votes with 39% in, guys. That's an incredibly close race. And really, Tim Smith very close in 3rd place. Wendy Davis not far behind in 4th place. Let's look at the Democratic side of the aisle in that 3rd district. So far, Kylie Adolph with a lead of more than 20 points on the Democratic side of the aisle. All right, so a lot of things to look at, a lot of numbers to digest, but interesting how close that race is in the 3rd district so far.
It is, and Stutzman had the incumbency advantage at one time. He and his wife owned Amish Acres over in Napanee, very successful business over there. And so I'm a little surprised he's not farther ahead, but I think in the end he pulls it out.
Laura, anything else surprise you so far tonight?
Not yet. There's still time. I think Robin and I were just talking when we were on a break that this is starting to look like the year of the woman, at least on some of the Democrat sides, because you've got that primary race, especially with the Senate race and then the 5th district race as well.
Real quick, I want to check in with Politico's Adam Wren, who's with us on Zoom as well. Adam, what stands out to you so far tonight as you look at some of the numbers we've been seeing in the projections that have been made already?
Yeah, in a primary that was largely about China's threat to Indiana, the candidate on the GOP side with arguably the deepest ties and connections to China, Mike Braun, with his auto parts dealership in Jasper, Indiana, who ships a number of parts in every month. It didn't stick to him. It didn't matter. And so as much as this race was litigated around national issues, it really didn't cut against him, and none of the other candidates attacked him on it.
Adam had an interesting article in Politico today about what you called the race about nothing in that Republican primary. We'll be talking more with Adam and with Pete Seat and Terry Austin, who are also with us on Zoom. But we've got to take a break. We're going to hear from Senator Mike Braun just moments from now as we continue to look at some of the numbers. We'll send you to break. We'll be back with more coverage from the In Focus team right after this. Stick around.
It's time for a change. To go big. To be clear. To get it right. All at a time and a place that works for your life. Fox 59 News. Everywhere. All the time.
Honey?
Have you seen what's poppin'? Cash Pop is the newest draw game from the Hoosier Lottery. Match just one number to win. Tickets start at $1. Prizes start at $5. With drawings 5 times a day. Cash Pop, it's what's poppin'.
Thanks to you, this lamp got a new home. And as a nonprofit, we use the proceeds to support programs like Goodwill's Excel Center, which helps adult learners earn their diplomas. That's a lot of juice from just one bulb. And that's how good is made.
Dig into Fazoli's Italian classics. Baked ziti, loaded baked spaghetti, and loaded fettuccine Alfredo. Fresh, quality ingredients and your favorite sauces and toppings, handcrafted to order. The Italian classics, loaded with flavor. Only at Fazoli's.
More news from more trusted reporters in more places to keep you more informed. Fox 59 News, everywhere, all the time.
Good morning. It is race day.
And there it goes.
Fox 59 and CBS 4 bring you full throttle coverage of the Indy 500. All month long on Fox 59 and CBS 4.
Welcome back to our live special election night edition of In Focus as we look at the numbers from the Indiana primary. The Associated Press projecting former President Trump a winner in Indiana's primary, though Nikki Haley, who's dropped out of the race, is pulling in 22% of the vote on a very big day in the news for former President Trump amidst the ongoing trial in New York. We also learned his trial in Florida will be pushed back until later this year. But the big story here in Indiana, that race for governor, Senator Mike Braun, the projected winner, the Associated Press projecting he is victorious tonight in this crowded Republican primary. 6 candidates in all. You can see he has a 17-point lead over Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch. We are live at his campaign party in Whitestown, Indiana. We're expecting to hear him speak within the next few minutes. But as we wait to hear from Mike Braun, I want to bring in more of our panelists who are joining us tonight. We've got our In Focus panel here: Robin Winston, Tony Samuel, Laura Beck, and Mike Murphy. We also have Adam Wren, Pete Seat, and Terry Austin joining us on Zoom. We spoke with Adam moments ago about his article in Politico today, which described this Republican primary as, in their words, a race about nothing. Pete Seat, the former GOP communications director, with us as well. Pete, you were quoted in that article, which had a lot of interesting nuggets about this race and what's been happening behind the scenes, including a bit of perhaps some contentious moments behind the scenes between the current governor and the lieutenant governor because of this race. What do you make of everything that we've seen here in this primary, this Republican primary, these last few months?
Well, I can tell you, Dan, I got a lot of text messages after people read that article because they were feeling the same thing I was feeling, which is this campaign was about the personalities. It was about the who and not about the what. Policy specific to Indiana was not at the forefront of the conversation. And as I said in the article, the candidates allowed themselves to succumb to the vixen of national politics. We used to say that all politics is local. Today, all politics is national, and we saw that play out in the governor's race.
Terry Austin is with us as well, along with Adam Wren there on Zoom. And Terry, it's certainly no doubt national politics have been a big part of the conversation. Does that continue to be the case, do you think, in this general election race? Laura mentioned the abortion access issue. That seems likely to be one we'll hear a lot about leading up to November.
Well, Dan, I think there could be a shift among voters, quite honestly. Primaries are sort of a big family feud, quite honestly. But as voters get serious and think about the next 4 years of their lives, I'm hoping that the candidates really focus on what matters to Hoosiers: economic issues, education issues, workforce development and jobs, the things that cause Hoosiers to, quite honestly, lay awake at night. And I think you'll see, like someone said earlier, a distinct difference between the campaigns. It's hard to walk some of this back. You can walk a little bit of it back, but to just basically run a parallel campaign to a presidential campaign, I think will not go over well with Hoosiers in the end.
Okay, Terry, thank you so much to you and Pete. We're sitting here at the desk looking at some other numbers. If we can pull up the 5th district race, the primary there, the Republican primary, we've been watching those numbers closely throughout the night. It looks like a little bit of a narrowing gap now between Victoria Spartz and Chuck Goodrich. She's ahead by about 6 points according to some of the numbers that we're looking at. That's been an interesting race. Obviously, she said she wasn't going to run, then changed her mind. A lot of people got in the race, including State Rep Chuck Goodrich, who spent $4 or $5 million on this campaign. And we'll see. It's so far, again, 39-33. It's a 6-point race. It's not over yet. Victoria Spartz leading there by 2,000 votes. What do you make of the numbers we're seeing there so far?
Well, I think Goodrich still has a great shot. I mean, Victoria Spartz is a woman who came on the scene as the champion of Ukraine and then completely flipped and voted against helping the Ukrainians at all. I mean, here in the United States, she may be popular in some parts of her district, but I think in Kyiv, they would hang her for treason if they got a hold of her.
On the Democratic side of the aisle, we've seen a kind of a close race there as well between Deborah Pickett, who's ahead of Ryan Feniger. tough race for Democrats to win. It's obviously one that Christina Hale came close in 2020. It's been redrawn since then, and obviously the Republican who wins this race will have a big advantage going into the fall.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, but it also depends on which Republican it's going to be, because I think if there's
Which one do you think is more defeatable?
Well,
in your view?
I think they deserve each other, really. I mean, I think Victoria Spartz and Chuck Goodrich deserve each other, and that last mail piece of him in the tutu. I mean, that.
We've seen some interesting campaign ads
I have
and
seen a lot of
flyers
negative
in
mail
this race
before,
and
and that was
others,
one of the best ones I've ever seen. That is just always that's a challenging district, but I think as it becomes more educated, you've got those Hamilton County voters. I do think there's a lot more Democratic enthusiasm for it, but the fact that it is that like I said, they just deserve each other, and the fact that we're still close and she's ahead, I mean, it really says a lot about primary voters.
Tony, what do you make of those numbers so far?
I think it'll continue to narrow, but you know, again, to the point of all these negative ads and all of these candidates, and then the voters who really don't know the candidates that well. Some know Victoria because she's the incumbent,
We
but
try
the others,
to let people know about what's going on in politics
but
on
you know
this
what? People are
program, but not
distracted,
everybody's
and-
paying attention.
Exactly, but also to the point of you know what affected the governor's race, it's affecting these congressional races as well. The national scene, the national news is dominated by Trump, and it's dominated by the bad news coming out of, you know, our economy, wars going on around the world, and the Biden administration not taking care of business. People are more focused on that. And then you've got all these people in these congressional races spending money as well as in the governor's race, but the average voter doesn't know what to think, and that's why we've got a low turnout and people getting turned off. So anything can happen, but you can kind of get a sense for what's happening in the 6th and the 5th. But yeah, Chuck could still pull that.
Robin, I'll let you button that up real quick before we look at some other numbers.
Almost 50,000 people voted for Nikki Haley today.
Yeah.
When you go in to vote in Indiana, you ask for a ballot of your party. People went in and said, give me the Republican ballot to not vote for Donald Trump. To me, that sends a message about where things are. I know that Mike Braun wrapped himself in the Trump flag and said, I'm this person, but 50,000 people as of right now said no way. So when we start talking about ticket splitting, keep this in mind for the fall. That's a potential vote for Jennifer McCormick right there.
Okay, we're going to look at some more numbers as we go to break, including in the 8th congressional district, a crowded Republican primary there. And so far, it looks like on the Democratic side of the aisle, Eric Hurt appears to hold a big lead at this point with about 40% of the vote that's been counted. And on the Republican side of the aisle, it's been a crowded race, but it looks as if state lawmaker Mark Messmer is victorious tonight. The Associated Press declaring him the winner, and he has a huge lead, as you see there, over John Hostetler, who used to hold this very seat in Congress. Stick around. We're back to wrap things up, and if he comes to the podium before 8 p.m., we'll hear from Mike Braun as well. Is Braun headed to the podium now? There's a live picture from his campaign headquarters. We'll be back with more coverage after this and some of Braun's remarks if he's there on stage by 8 o'clock. Stick around. We're back with more right after this.
Feels good to be home. Ashley's Memorial Day sale is going on now, and everything is on sale, featuring our largest selection of hot buys ever, up to 50% off. This summer, spend less, get more. Only at Ashley.
After the motorcycle accident, we were racking up a lot of medical bills. We heard about Team Green. They're very knowledgeable and basically answer any question you have. We got a lot more than I'd say we got double what we thought. They're for you. They want you to have a better life when they're done.
Bob Evans Farmer Jokes.
How does a blueberry talk on the phone? Bluetooth.
We're talking berries. Bob Evans' new fresh berry recipes, starting at $6.99. Just $6.99 at the Farmhouse Kitchen.
You used to love these jeans. Now they just feel old. So donate them to your local nonprofit Goodwill. With the proceeds from selling them, we'll support programs like Goodwill's Nurse Family Partnership, which helps low-income new moms raise healthier kids. Kids who will one day buy jeans like these at Goodwill and brag about their great vintage find. In other words, kids who will make you feel old. But at least you'll know the future's in great hands, and jeans. And that's how good is made.
A 33-year-old mystery.
She reminded me of just somebody's grandma.
Boxes and bags of evidence, but no suspect.
Who stabbed this defenseless elderly woman to death?
In the Unsolved, Wednesday at 6.
If you've been injured in a car crash,
the insurance company can make the overall process difficult. It's as if they want you to give up, but we don't give up.
1-800-2-KELLER.
Keller & Keller, the name you know.
Feels good to be home. Ashley's Memorial Day sale is going on now. For a limited time, buy one, get one half off store-wide. Buy this sofa and get the love seat 50% off. Or get low monthly payments with no interest for 84 months. Only at Ashley.
Welcome back to our live coverage from your local election headquarters. We're following the race for governor. The Associated Press projecting Mike Braun is victorious tonight in that crowded Republican primary. He'll go up against Jennifer McCormick in the fall after so many of these candidates spent a lot of money in this race. We're looking at a big win tonight for Mike Braun. We've got live pictures from his campaign headquarters in Whitestown, where we're expecting Senator Braun to speak momentarily. You see some members of his family and other supporters up there on stage. We're expecting to hear from him moments from now, and if we're not able to bring you any of that here within this broadcast, as we move to Fox Primetime at 8 p.m., we will be carrying some of his remarks on our website at fox59.com. I want to bring in Adam Wren as we wait to hear from Senator Braun. Adam, what are you expecting to hear from the senator tonight as he gets set to deliver these remarks after winning tonight's Republican primary?
Well, I'm interested to see whether or not he thanks former President Donald Trump for his victory in the primary. If you watched the Braun campaign unfold, it was really fascinating because even though he had that gold card Trump endorsement, he rarely mentioned it in the debates. He rarely mentioned it whenever he was doing interviews. He would allow his campaign to tout it, but he is someone who sees himself as a self-made man, as a self-made political character, and really sort of, wants all the credit. So it'd be interesting to see whether or not he mentions Donald Trump. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't. His campaign says he wants to be his own man. So I'll be watching that, Dan.
Robin, Tony, how much credit does former President Trump deserve in this Mike Braun victory tonight?
I think a lot. Every commercial was just focused on
You guys think maybe he mentioned him a little more than Adam thought, huh?
He mentioned Trump. Every commercial showed the rallies. There was one picture that I was in the background of the 2018 rally in Evansville. So I'll take a little bit of credit.
Let's show some live pictures again from Braun campaign headquarters, where he's up there on stage. He's about to speak. We are about to wrap up our coverage here because we need to get to Fox's primetime programming, but we'll be bringing you some of Senator Braun's remarks from his campaign headquarters here on our website on fox59.com. And of course, more coverage coming up tonight on Fox 59 News at 10 p.m. and Sunday morning on this week's edition of In Focus. Mike Braun victorious in the Republican primary tonight. More coverage coming up online on fox59.com. We'll see you there.